It's coming from on high. Little revelation.
You're good.
I think we're good, yeah. We got 2 people online.
Candace, how are you doing? Everything going well? Good to see you.
You too.
Good.
Good to see you. Sure thing.
Yeah. Cheap. Went back 50 yards. Down to. But. This year. So much grass out there. No, I just wish that.
Okay, ready? Artist says we're ready. We're a little late starting. Sorry about that. We're getting everything organized. I think we are ready for the meeting. We've got a couple online, so we'll see who else shows up there. Jake is our keynote speaker and he left the building, so Tice will have to take his spot. Make it quick. Shorten that time frame down just a little bit. We'll just go around and do a round of introductions one more time. I'm Brandon Yardley. For some reason, I'm the chairman of this board. I haven't figured that out yet. We'll just go around right here with Cardi. We'll start.
Sure. Hartley Payne, Division of Water Resources. I'm the Watershed Council Coordinator.
Mark
Nelson, USU Extension, Beaver County.
Vice President, Department of Ag and Food, Conservation District.
David Harris, Enoch City and Water Conservancy District in Latter County.
Candace Shively, Water Conservation Coordinator with the Division of Water Resources.
Cody Staheli, Enoch Conservation District.
Paul Monroe with the Central Iron County Water Conservancy District.
Scott Stubbs, Iron County.
and also Sheep Parade.
And I was there. Allred, Kanarraville Town, Water Conservancy.
Spencer Jones.
Nick Ray, on Division 1.
Tammy Pearson.
And Stephanie's up here. She is taking notes. She's gonna take them twice this time, I think, because I messed them up last time. So. The good thing is we don't have too many action items other than just the minutes, approving the minutes, so. Has everybody had a chance to look over the minutes? I think we did get it straight. Everything was.
I think so. Oh, only took me a few hours. Plus a few more.
Plus a few more. Any corrections or additions on the minutes? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion.
Second. Okay, a motion by Tyler and the second was by David. All in favor? Any opposed? Perfect. All right, we're gonna jump right into the discussion today. Tammy's gonna talk to us about the lawsuit, the Utah lawsuit against the federal government, give us an update there. And then also, I told her wrong, so she has some watershed management that she can talk about also if Jake doesn't come back. So he's back. Okay. We'll turn the time over to Tammy.
Can I just stand there or go stand?
Maybe up there, just so.
Okay. You got a face for radio, so.
So as far as the lawsuit goes, just to explain that, most of you probably understand it, but, the state lawsuit is to ask the question if the federal land can be held in perpetuity by the federal government.
Think of the Taylor grazing access.
Well, that's part of it. But in the Constitution, whatever else, when the state was granted statehood, most all of the states in the east were granted every acre within their boundary. And so the question is going straight to the Supreme Court. We're praying and hoping that they take it up and ask that question, because every other state has been, not every other state, the western states were not allowed to keep their acreage. So it's a simple question, and the definition of public lands is lands for disposal. So that's what the question is the public lands, basically BLM. So it takes out any Indian ground in National Forest Reserve, any other BLM that's been designated in some other form, whether it's a monument or a wilderness or wilderness study area, national park, national monument. I'm missing anything.
I think that was all of them.
Anyway, so it's the regular BLM land that we all graze and hunt and recreate on, that the state's going after. It's over 80 million acres.
I guess just fearful of times past, with an outgoing president. We heard anything as far as
There,
maybe, if there's any, you just mentioned a list of things that could be, identified as areas that would roll into
Yeah.
national
and
monuments.
the Antiquities Act has us screwed over on that kind of thing. I have not heard anything lately, but there's been several rumors of the Red Rock Wilderness area being slammed down our throats. And that's scary, because that's huge acreage in several states. We don't know. We're hoping that this lawsuit already ties those lands up, puts them in the question, so the president can't do it over the top of what that question is to the Supreme Court. I don't know if we do or we don't.
Yeah, that's a good point. I was just curious if it had an adverse effect, or, but that would be good if by filing.
It's kind of, this lawsuit's been coming for 20 some odd years. We just we got one bullet, so to speak. We got one chance in the middle of all of this to get this done. We've got a friendly Supreme Court. We've got a friendly administration coming in. Where we go. So,
You know the timeline of when the Supreme Court will decide. They don't even have to work on timelines, do they? They don't know how long that.
we're hoping the sooner the better. It would be really nice if we get it done in the next 6 months. It's just hard to say, because so I've been told by several people who should know what they're talking about, like Michael and that have dealt with the Supreme Court, that says the Supreme Court has to take this, and then I have other people that says the Supreme Court does not have to take it. So we're hoping that they do. In that, along with that, there's 12 amicus briefs that have been filed with it in support. Scott's PLC group's one of them. UAC, several states, I think there's seven other states, I think, that have filed, hoping that this is a good thing. Because the western states are all in the same boat.
They want to see how this one goes before they file their second lawsuit.
Right. And just so you know, if and or when the state gets some up to 250,000, it kicks in the Utah Department of Public Lands.
Yeah.
Is that right? Okay, Department of Public Lands, and what that does is it's a management office similar to what BLM already is. This ground will be managed very similar to what BLM already is, to keep it open to the public, will not be sold for private or monetary, like what Sitla does. So those are some of the things that people are very fearful and worried about. So, any questions? I've talked for them.
So was Utah the first state to do this?
Oh, yeah.
So then other states
Utah's a leader.
joined in later?
Utah's been the leader on so many different things. We're in a national organization of counties. And so to lay the groundwork, that, I think it was 2008 I don't know that they did, Mike Noel and those guys did a state statute that said if we ever get land back to the state through this process, that will, the 250,000 acres will implement that state or the State Department of Public Lands. So this has been in place. They've been waiting, they've been loading the bullets for a long, long time. And it's hopefully the stars have aligned and all the things are right with the world and we can get it done. So.
I guess if you would just talk for a minute on why that's important to the Watershed Council, what it means for like what it means.
So technically, we wouldn't have any more authority over forest because it's the forest reserve and that's always gonna be federal and that's not something we can fight about. The difference, just let me reiterate, the difference between public lands is public lands are by definition are lands for disposal. That's what the Constitution says or the bylaws or what, whatever it is. So anything that has been designated, like the Forest Service is the Forest Reserve, the monuments, the wilderness areas, all those things that are listed in your BLM. What does give us strength as far as the state of Utah and the ownership of the BLM lands is we can keep it open for grazing. We can keep it open for drilling, minerals, mining, recreational access for hunting, all these things that the BLM, and not just this administration, but several administrations before have been closing roads right and left. They've stopped drilling, they've stopped all these different things that keeps our livelihoods.
So this is gonna make the NEPA process totally different to maintain our watersheds. Like Tammy says, it'll just be on the BLM, but I think it's our only chance of getting our water back.
And that, I guess that was the point, it's just like under state control, it's gonna be a lot easier to manage than under the feds like it is.
Right.
The hope. That's the hope.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, with plenty of things, the state is not necessarily, that in instances, the federal government is easier to deal with than the state.
Well, and I think that's been a lot of people's fear, they've had a hard time with Sitla and had a hard time with the state on several different things, and they're really worried that this is gonna be, parcels are gonna be sold. But I do wanna say that there are several landlocked parcels of BLM that they won't sell. A lot of them are inside city limits, so there are a lot of them, border towns and whatever that can be used for a growth potential for those towns, like Moab itself, they've just closed 600 miles worth of roads around Moab. But Moab's landlocked, which makes no sense at all. They have no room for housing or additional housing. And if they go outside of the town somewhere, everybody squawks about that because you got a lot of move-ins that come into Moab and they want to shut the door behind them. They don't want more growth. But.
What, is it something constitutional? Just curious on if maybe you don't know on the setup of it. This organization where the threshold is at 250.
That's a state.
So the state said, but I guess is that part of people's worries too, is that, hey, we're not going to sell it, but it's just a change of a vote or whatever.
Change of
and we can't
ownership.
sell it down the road. I guess that's what I'm asking. What structurally?
So the state is putting this structure together.
Yeah.
The reason being is, they've got to have a foundation or organization set up in case the question is answered in our favor.
Mm-hmm.
And so they've been planning that for a long time. Like I said, it's been 18 years or something like that.
So Carl Allred, explain that.
So Carl's just got done last year. So Carl's bill, and I can't remember the number on it, but it designates or makes grazing a right. It's a property right, where the BLM designates grazing as it's a permitted use. And so that's if the state of Utah is able to receive this BLM land, anybody under that is, so like if you're grazing on BLM ground or in of SR, your right will now be considered a property right in the courts, whatever else, because it's on the books in Utah.
And so that does the change.
Like your grazing permit that you have, property right.
So your permit with BLM, right, would change over to a property right registered under the state of Utah instead of through the BLM. So it's gonna be a process. I mean, I hope I'm still alive and I can see it at some point in time. But, you know, don't hold your breath.
Cause
It's
these,
just-
your grazing allotments, your permits are of value.
Which they are anyway, it's just a BLM says it's a permitted use, it's not, and that's been the argument from day one, but the whole thought process between, of Carl's permit, or Carl's, bill was to lock that down legally, that it's a grazing right. And we've always been able to use it as collateral, you can sell your permits, you've always been able to do that, it's always been a property right in our mind, but BLM would not acknowledge it as that. So there's a whole lot of other things that come into play that we could get into the weeds, but, like the conservation rule and all that crap is coming from the BLM, from this administration, where they come in and they can file a conservation easement on top of your permit. And it's an NGO, it doesn't like grazing. And if you lapse, like, and that's exactly what's gonna happen. This is the fear, is if they put a conservation permit, and it's a 10-year conservation easement, and then your permit on your 10-year renewal, right there, it's overlaps. If you're doing something they don't like, then their easement has priority and supersedes over your new 10-year lease. Yeah,
It's confusing.
it's confusing and it's frustrating. I mean, there's a whole lot of stuff, history going on there.
Just one more question on the sale of land, because I know that's been a big topic. Somewhere we had conversation that if Utah does sell that land, the money goes back to the federal government at that point. And I can't remember if I was talking to Caitlin or who I talked to. So really, there's no benefit for Utah to sell this land.
Right.
The Sitla land, it's totally different. They have one purpose, right, to get as much money as they can for the states, for the schools. For this, it would actually be no benefit at all for Utah to sell that land, because that money would go back to the federal government.
Right. One other thing that nobody asked, and just in case, is, you know, people have asked, how does the state, how are we going to be able to afford to manage this, right? Because none of us pay, you know, the kind of grazing fees that you would think that's gonna manage it, you know, hunting fees, whatever else. The state, and I can't remember the exact number, but wasn't it like 280 million or something like that? I keep numbers in my head.
Just in the Vernal Basin, it was 180 million that they pay
To federal government, just for the mineral
just
leases.
for the mineral leases.
But statewide on this stuff is several $100 million. It goes back to the feds that the state, just the state fees right there, much less what the normal people would pay the federal government on top of that.
Plus our managing it better, your suspended AUMs probably some of those will come back to life, you know, it'll grow. But
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So, all right, thank you.
Okay. I was gonna say, you got
Jake,
people
Jake's-
online you might want to introduce.
Oh, sorry, there are a couple online. Can we introduce those real quick?
Yeah, online we have Paul Cozzens, Amy Dickey, and Jason Brown. Do you want any of them to introduce themselves to the group?
I think that works right there.
Okay, awesome.
Okay, so we'll turn some time over to Jake. I had a conversation with Jake. I don't know if it was a conversation, but he scolded me for probably 20 minutes. And I thought that's something we all need to hear. So the basis of the conversation was we focus so much on reducing what we're taking out of the outlet that we forget to focus on what we can put to the inlet. And Jake he can explain that a lot better, but that was the focus of the conversation. I think it's an important conversation, so we'll turn the time over to him.
Okay, I may sound like a broken record here, but that's okay. So I don't know, I'm gonna kind of bounce all over the place on this. And I'm gonna approach this with the start of my education going into watershed health and how I came to this position we're sitting at today. Back when I was in college, I used to work for the USGS. And with the USGS, my job, we're instructed to perform the Permian Valley groundwater study. And so as a student, I was going to SU here, I was studying natural resources and working for the USGS, measuring water, surface water, groundwater, all that stuff. You know, it was pretty intriguing to me. So this was just a college job. And we started out in the spring doing spring water levels. And in the fall, we do fall water levels on all the wells throughout the entire valley. And then during that time, I started doing surface water measurements on Summit Creek, Perwin Creek, Little Creek, Red Creek. Every single week I do a surface water measurement. I did that for 3 years straight. And so therefore I created a hydrograph of what these streams do and could prorate about what's coming into the valley all the time. And then we'd see the water levels dropping with the groundwater within the wells. And then in the summer times, we'd go take a discharge measurement on every single irrigation well within the valley. So now we know how much water's coming in, how much water's going out. Here's the water levels. And I just in my head, I was like, well, I don't think this makes sense. This doesn't make sense of what's happening here. And so at that time I was transitioning into this job that I'm currently working as a conservation planner and went to some of these conferences and talked about watershed health and got in touch really close with Chad Reed and a guy by the name of Charles Kay. I don't know if anyone knows who Charles Kay is, but he does a lot of repeat photography for Utah State University. And listen to Chad Reed, listen to Charles Kay. It really brought all this together to me. And these repeat photos that we'll go through here explains it to me better. And, you know, Chad Reed used to say when the early explorers rode into southern Utah, into the Perwin Valley and the Cedar Valley, they had a hell of a time finding a sagebrush or cedar tree suitable enough to tie a horse to. And now we're looking at these repeat photos, you know, where you do woodland tree survey and, you know, the pinyon juniper and sagebrush step, and we're approaching 200 to 400 trees per acre. And the ecological site description suggests that we should be around 50 trees to 80 trees per acre, not 300, 400 trees per acre. And I feel like this whole time we're so focused on the consumptive side, you know, to go back to farmers were flood irrigating, wild flood irrigating with furrows, flood irrigating with gated pipe. Then we got the wheel line or hand lines, then we went to wheel lines, then we went to pivots, then we went to pivots with leaping nozzles. And over the last 100 years, the farmers have invested the absolute most amount of money into conservation. That's the consumptive side, but we've ignored the watershed side for over 100 years. And this evolved into a little project that myself and Chad Reed and Stan Kitchen and Charles Kay and Dean Winward did. We went up on the Cedar Mountain and he was trying to measure the fire ecology within Cedar Mountain, the fire frequency. And you go, okay, what is it? And how are we gonna do that? So we go find all these ponderosa trees. And in this packet here, there's a picture of a ponderosa tree. And I guess we're page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Page number 6. You can see that ponderosa tree and that burn scar at the bottom of the ponderosa tree. So it looks like, to the untrained eye, it looks like that was a lightning strike or kind of a fire scar. And as you notice, that ponderosa tree is in an aspen stand, a mixed aspen stand there. Rangeland wise, do aspens burn, and how well do aspens carry a fire? Not very well at all. And so you can see at the bottom of that ponderosa tree where we took the sample. And following that ponderosa tree photo is a picture of that sample. And you can see all the little tick marks through the middle of the piece of wood. Is everyone able to see that? Every one of those is a occurred fire. Okay,
It's
there
about
you go.
page 12, not 6.
Oh, well, I must have screwed up on printing these off then.
I found it now.
Okay.
It just was not at 6, so I'm still trying to find it.
Anyways, sorry about that. Maybe my print job here, I didn't do a very good job with it. Anyways, you can see all those little tick marks on that ponderosa tree, right? So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 fires on this particular ponderosa tree. And I'm scratching my head going, okay, we have 11 fires over a 300-year period or 200-year period. And we sampled dozens and dozens and dozens of trees. In particular, this one ponderosa tree that's in the middle of an aspen stand that doesn't burn, surrounded by snowberry that doesn't burn. This tree had, on average, a fire every 12 years for 250 years solid. And no more fires after 1870. Did the ignition source quit? Did lightning quit striking? Like, what happened here? Why is this? So after 1870, we started having less fire frequency, and all these dozens of trees we sampled all over Cedar Mountain, 1870, 1880, 1890, pretty soon, no more fires, no more fires, no more fires. And our watersheds, in my opinion, our aquifer was negatively affected the day we started putting fires out. Is therefore our watersheds were not functioning properly. We started having the encroachment, cedar tree encroachment over a 120-year period. So I feel like, in my opinion, our watersheds were negatively affected the day our forefathers, early settlers, started showing up here and putting fires out.
Enough Indians.
And
That's right.
the Native Americans kept fires burning, and it's noted in the early explorers that, the Cedar Mountain, the Beaver Mountains, all that was on fire all the time. And so watershed health, the natives understood a functioning watershed, a healthy watershed, and knew the springs and the tender grasses and native shrubs and forests and all that were plentiful following the fire. And so they kept the fire managed through that way. And, nowadays we show up, we suppress fire, and our aquifer is doing this. Yes, we're using a lot of the water, but our watersheds are not functioning properly. Our watersheds are in bad condition. And these previous photos that are on the front of this document, this first photo is Upper Bear Valley. I guess maybe I have the wrong one here. Mine's a partial. Okay, so, yeah, there we go. So this first one here is the blow up explosion in Iron County, Utah. That's up by just above Yankee Reservoir. You can see the first photo. That was taken in 1960. And the second photo, that was taken in 2005. And I would like to go back now because that area has burned since the Bryan Head fire. And I probably should go back and take that photo. North Hills, page number 3, Iron County, it's just north of here, out by Lizzie's Hill. This is, 1937 and 2007. Look at the PJ encroachment on there.
Why do you think all the springs all of a sudden started showing up by Yankee there a couple of years ago?
The Bryan Head fire. That was the best thing. So talk about the Bryan Head fire. 2017, Bryan Head fire smoked 71,000 acres of high elevation ground. And following the Bryan Head fire, the winter of 2017, 2018, our snowpack was at 50 to 60% snowpack. The summer of 2018, we had a constant flow of water going out to the Little Salt Lake. It was more water than the farmers in Paramount could utilize. Following the Bryan Head fire. I mean, that was an instant flush of water and everything. I feel like the Bryan Head fire was the best thing could have happened to that country. Other people disagree. For watershed health, it needed to happen, and it needs to happen all over.
Well, they can be wrong too, Jay.
They can be wrong too. I'm not saying anything I'm saying is correct. But anyway, so watershed health, I feel like with this group or whatever direction we're going, I've worked with many of you guys in here. Watershed health is always overlooked, and we're always so focused on the consumptive side, but the supply side is what's overlooked all the time. That's Forest Service, BLM, State Ground, Park Service. I mean, all of it benefits everyone. You go to the other page here, Upper Bear Valley. That's 1960, 2005. That's you can see the few trees, you can count them on the hillside. And now look at the trees, you can't count them. And I would think that since that photo, they've done a lock and scatter in the last 2 or 3 years at this location, if I'm correct. The Henry Mountains, that's a good one, 1915 to 2010. 1915, that country was functioning properly with what they call fire refugia. Your rocks, rock outcropping, mosaic pattern of the PJ in there and the sagebrush step, a healthy ecosystem. And then you go to the second page of the Henry Mountains, look at that. It's nothing but a monoculture. with your monocultures, your pinyon juniper forest, what grows underneath them? Nothing. So what do you have underneath the PJ, underneath the heavy infested phase 3 pinyon juniper forest? You have nothing but bare soil. And when you have very heavy thunderstorms that we get all over southern Utah, you have massive amounts of soil erosion, and therefore your soil erosion is all the soil that's getting transported with these heavy rainfalls are now getting deposited on your alluvial fans. So you're getting zero infiltration back into your aquifer. So that's where the aquifers are not functioning, and your watershed is not functioning properly, because now we've replaced a safer steppe community with a 100% monoculture pinyon juniper, nothing but bare soil. Anyways,
What's the use of water on a tree per day, on cedar tree?
I've heard several different studies. The one thing that I try to go with, an area that's 30% covered of cedar trees takes 60% of the available water. Some of these photos here, like this Henry Mountain photo, that's 100% monoculture, so it's taking 100% of the available water. That's through preset groundwater, springs, runoff, snowpack. So that's kind of the rule of thumb that Chad Reed always mentioned to me, is 30% area covered takes 60% of the available water. So you look at several of these valleys. I'm very familiar with the Paramount Valley. If we look at the entire watershed of the Paramount Valley, there's several of those canyons that go to 9,000 or 10,000 feet elevation that don't have a spring runoff when there's snowpack. Like a couple years ago, we had record snowfall. Some of these canyons go to 9,000 feet elevation, not a drop of water makes it to the valley. Why is that? Because it's
They're shaded and
the
it evaporates.
cedar trees are up in the watershed, and if it's snowing or raining, what do? Crawl underneath the cedar tree, because that's what keeps you dry. And so our watersheds are not functioning properly.
There's a pretty good study on that.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember if it's Forestry and Fire or who has the numbers. Reg has a bunch of the numbers, but they figure that the cedar trees and that take up upwards of 30 gallons, 15 to 30 gallons
Per tree?
per tree per day.
Mm-hmm.
But the big study, like on the shared stewardship projects that we've been on, and that video and stuff that we put out, just what you just got through saying is those trees shade that snow that's there, and it never, it doesn't melt, so it doesn't go into the ground and come out the streams, and that it eventually just dries up and evaporates. It just doesn't go into ground.
Exactly. And this other photo you can see here, this is a bullhog project up on Cedar Mountain. In the bottom left next to the road, you can see the log. That's my key that I used. And the second photo was right after treatment. And by doing this is a bullhog project. This is just a small picture. There's dozens and dozens of success stories with the bullhog and the mastication. By spreading those wood chips out on the ground, it holds your soil moisture. It holds the runoff on the landscape where it needs to be, and doesn't just run off. And I guess the purpose of my conversation here is we've spent so much time and so much energy on the efficiency end of the consumptive side that our supply side is neglected all the time. And I guess that's the point of my whole discussion. Anything else here?
Questions for Jake? Scott's got a question.
So, I had Kimball Holt come to my Farm Bureau meeting, and they've been doing a lot with evapotranspiration.
Evaporation, yeah.
Whatever it's called. And he was telling about their farm. They're trying to actually figure out the actual water depletion. But what he came and talked to us about was, out on 56, those projects they've done out along there. So they measured an acre or so many acres of that versus so many acres right next to it, and took the data from NASA, and there was an acre foot less evaporate off the grass than out of the trees. Acre foot per acre.
Mm-hmm.
So you figure that out. That's huge.
Millions of acres of just solid PJ. And I'm not saying get rid of 100% of all the PJ junipers, but
That'd be all right too.
they do have a place. But yeah, an acre foot per acre. That's a big number.
Is cutting and logging as effective as burning it as far as savings?
Yeah. I mean,
More so, probably, because then you're actually getting a
product.
profit top of it.
Oh,
Product.
yeah, that's the point.
Yeah,
Is to get
well,
product.
that's always kind of not, it's not a joke, but you graze it, log it, or whatever.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so, logging of cedar trees, they don't have any value basically. But if you get your Dougford, Engelmann spruce, ponderosa, those that have value, there's still plenty of those forests around that we just don't have lumberyard around here. I mean, I can talk about over to Escalante and how big of an industry that was. Now it's nothing but crickets over there.
And the pine trees take this much water as the cedars, if not more. Quaking aspen.
There's new science, they've just gotta do the money end of stuff, but there's new science with pinyon and juniper. And we've had several companies come in and talk to us about it. I said, I wish they'd have come and done this 15, 20 years ago before they were doing the mastification and the lob and scatter, because they made jet fuel out of it. They call it juniper fuels and stuff, they do a biomass.
You got that biochar down too.
Yeah, they got biochar, there's several different things. It just doesn't pencil out on the back end, but, they're looking at it, trying to figure out how to make it feasible.
You're able to go to this graph. This is in the Stan Kitchen study here.
Table one. Table one.
Table one, I think, yeah. Table one, if you're able to look at that, this is kind of puts it all together. The stuff on the left, MS1, MS2, these are just local names that he abbreviated for the study. And that shows our elevation, 8,800 feet elevation down to 6,000. Tree sample and data in the earliest and latest fire years. I mean, look at the variance there, 1653 to 1924. That just impresses me that this is live, living data. I mean, this information was 100% accurate, living data that you can't skew from coring the tree and taking this sample out there. Total fires in years, I mean, there's some trees that have 22 fires on them. On average, 10 and a half years, every 10 and a half years. So we go to some of these locations. If we go to the top one there, MS-2, that is called the Meadow Springs pasture. It's just west of Navajo Lake on private land, on the Lundgren's private land. And he's logged all that property in the early 2000s. And so that shows, I mean, that's privately owned ground that was homesteaded, and they've grazed it continuously since the 1880s. And the last fire was 1855. So anyways, all this just, I kind of nerd out on this because I think it's fascinating. But anyways, if anyone has any other questions or want this little dissertation here by Stan Kitchen was.
Well, the sad part is we just got fired.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, we had that lightning strike in, heck, down in the bottom of North Fork, next to a cabin, right?
Next to last one, yeah.
Yeah, they had
Should let
their crap on that in 45 minutes. They kept it under an acre.
Mhm.
20 years ago, it would have turned into something good.
Like bullhawk all the way around it, so they should just let it go into the bull.
Yeah, but it's just the public
Perception.
perception that we're not doing our job.
Well, smoking
Me,
is
is what I do.
not a good guy.
And like the Arizona strip, they didn't have one get over 1,000 acres down there. 99% of it was all aviation. They should have let that burn. What's it gonna hurt down there? But that's the problem, is we've just gotten too good at what they do with the aviation.
Just like the Schertz Canyon fire, it was doing nothing but good.
Yeah. I just wait till you see the input that comes off of the one above Marysville. Once they get the erosion problem taken care of, they're gonna have some really good water.
Delta will thank them.
But yeah, it's just, that's the problem. We see smoke and you have to put it out, or else the public's pissed off. You're not doing what you do.
And there have been some good projects over on the Beaver Mountain. where
Yeah.
They actually use fire as a tool to, and they are good projects, but it is a bit of a, we get phone calls every time they start up there, wondering what we're
Yeah.
smoking.
And this last one, the Grab Point here in Iron County was big. The only reason it turned the way it did is because of Cedar Highlands. If Cedar Highlands hadn't been there, they would have let that one go a lot more. But they were already evacuating those people and doing everything to prove that people. Yeah, I mean, that's what it is. That one actually did good. The Hicks Creek coming out of the hill up there, It's running all the way to Wichita.
Mhm.
First time I've seen that in 20 some odd years.
Mhm.
So,
Well, the thing, the public perception, they don't understand that. When I first went into office, our attorney just crying, literal tears about the fire and this and that and the other, and it was the Twitchell fire that got away from them. And he, oh, it's the most awful thing. And I said, no, it's not. And I went through and showed him the burns and showed me, he says, but we just hate the smoke. And what about the tourists? We all like to run up there and, you know, do our thing. And Brian, that was the same thing. All the smoke and everything went into Ruby's and it caused a lot of trouble. But if they'd have been proactive, I mean, smaller fires, less intensity, don't sterilize the ground. But I mean, we talk about a lot on the state and federal level, that Smokey Bear did more harm literally than good, even though everybody loves Smokey the Bear and it's hard to trash talking, but you know, that perception that all fires are bad is not accurate.
That's all I've got. Is there anything else?
No, thanks, Jake. So part of the conversation that I guess we should have continuing forward is, you know, right now, we don't have any funding for this board. We don't have any money coming in. At some point, I think we will. Where do we spend that money? Is it better off spent in the input side or trying to be a little more efficient with the water that we have on the outlet side? I'm under the opinion that we focus on the input side and try to get some of that more bull hogging, some more tree removal that way. And this goes back to what Tammy talked about, that lawsuit. If we have state ground under state control, it's a little easier to do those projects than it is the way it is today. I think we've become really efficient on the outlet side. We've done a lot of good things, spent a lot of money, a lot of research, and we have forgotten about the input side. And you can see with Jake's presentation, when that changed and why that changed. And the pictures show, pictures paint 1,000 words, is that what they say?
Yeah.
And you can see that in those pictures, that we understand that, those trees use a lot of water. It's not healthy for the watershed to let things happen like that. So just keep that in mind, I guess, as we go forward. If there is a funding mechanism for this board, where we want to spend that money and where we're going to get the most out of the dollars that we spend. And I think, what Jake talked about is spot on. That's what we need to focus on and try to find some of those projects so we can increase that watershed health.
And probably pump a little bit of money into marketing. Last time I heard
It's a good idea.
we've outspent with the lawsuit that Tammy addressed, we have outspent marketing versus legal fees, which I think is smart. And I think if it were up to me, I would half again spend as much, because if you can get the public on your side, then you win the case. And to your point, Smokey Bear, we're all incredibly diligent because he taught us well. Unfortunately, he didn't teach us correctly.
Yeah.
And so we're going to have to turn that around. And if we get any money, that's where I'm going to vote that we have a professional marketing campaign and we hit all social media platforms and maybe even target the schools, because the bottom line is it's poor science.
Well, Nick,
Correct?
yeah,
Okay.
Nick was the previous chair for the WRI program down here, which is a huge program, a huge funding mechanism.
And what is that? Would you just?
Utah's Watershed Restoration Initiative.
Mhm.
So the Utah WRI program down here, we just had our meetings last week, the southern region, Richfield South, basically. We put more money and more acres treated in this part of the state than the rest of the state. I don't know about the numbers. I can't remember what Tyler said on number wise, but Nick, he used to be the chair of the WRI chapter down here. And it's a funding mechanism, it's heavily saturated with wildlife mindset. But no, that's not this, but it's because it's run with the DWR personnel mainly. So they've done a ton of work and continue to do a ton of work. And if you get online and look at the little videos, I can tell
Yes, so if you're not familiar with Utah's watershed restoration initiative, it, Jake was talking about, this is a great place to focus effort doing this watershed restoration work. But that's big scale, lots of money. How do you go about doing it? The good news is, there's this WRI initiative. It's all set up and it's a place where everyone can come together, pool money, resources, support, and get a ton of work done.
So essentially, the marketing materials are in place.
Yeah.
It just needs to be better distributed.
Yeah.
Which again is money and time and,
But it's a different, I think it's a different, explain who all's in WRI.
Yeah, so there.
It's because it's totally different.
Nick, you can come up here if you want.
I don't want to do that.
Then, what, for the purposes of just the video, because in fact, and Carly is so exceptional. Thank you, Carly, for really for doing all the legwork, because what will happen is we will all have access to these videos, and you're the voice of authority, so please get up in front of the owl.
I'm not the voice of authority. If you want me up here.
Yeah, come up here and talk to us a little bit. Because I think one thing that we forget to talk about is we see results on these watershed restoration projects in 1 year, not in 10 years. If you put on a LEPA package, you might not really fully understand the data for 4 or 5 years, but in 1 year, you get to see results on these watershed projects.
Yeah, and somebody asked, who's involved with it, and so Division of Wildlife Resources, obviously, we're really heavily involved, and kind of all the money flows through. We have some people administering, and it kind of flows through there, but it's really, so we're a big player. The Forest Service, BLM, State Forestry and Fire, Jake, who are some of the other, NRCS, yeah, is huge. UDAF. So there's about 10 signatories that play a big part, but everybody comes. If you're involved in this,
bring money too.
right? Okay. Yeah, and that gets into where too, if we end up getting some money and you're looking to use that money, part of what makes WRA so useful is you can leverage money. So you may only have a little bit of money, but you can go through WRI and you start partnering, and there's different matches, and you say you just have $20,000, you can leverage that and turn it into a huge project. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the big benefits of WRI.
That's highly successful.
Yeah, it's a really good thing. They always tell us, and I believe them, that all our high ups who talk to other states, it's kind of the envy of all the other Western states, because you really are able to do huge projects.
WRI has been in place about 25 years, close.
It started out with Utah Farmers Conservation Development, UPC, and it turned into WRI. Started about 2000, mid-2000s.
I was thinking it was way more than that.
Yeah, I think it was.
I know Terri Peterson was the commissioner of ag when that whole thing started.
I think WRI is ahead.
Well, WRI was born out of the UPC&D. UPC&D was the start of it.
It was the starting of
Back in the late 90s.
So I know the initial meeting was,
and DNR really took that, and then they blew it up to where it is today. DNR really made it. It was Mike Steiner.
yeah.
But anyway, like Jake said, so it's a statewide initiative, but it's kind of separated into 5 regions that overlap with our Division of Wildlife regions. And so obviously we're in the southern region. So if you have any questions about it, every year they elect different chairs and vice chairs. And so I was the vice chair and the chair a couple of years ago. But Division of Wildlife is always very involved with it. And we've always got almost somebody as chair, vice chair. So if there are ever any questions and I'm not here, just let me know. And, we can help with that. It's a cool program.
Well, so let me ask you a question and you can answer it. Who can initiate a project?
Anybody.
So that's a hint to anybody that's here.
Yep.
So how many of us in the room have done a WRI project?
I'm thinking of Warren Peterson in August, who said essentially, in order to protect your interests, you need to market yourselves. To your point, that's how we market ourselves.
Right.
Right?
So this project, and it's the site.
Right.
And I agree with you on marketing, but it's a totally different, like, this is actual on the ground.
Sure.
Project, and so, like, I'll just go back to my project, I know what Scott's project was too, and probably guess what Jake's was, but, so my project in general is the North Hills that has never had a drop of water on several 100,000 acres, it's a summer allotment for us. And it's been a 3 or 4 year project trying to get water rights to a place that is our settling ground. And then, in order to do that, we had BLM, had state water rights, had NRCS, had GIP. Everybody was involved in this, and the paper trail is not fun. Like, the paperwork, the red tape stuff is not fun, but we're finally implementing. It's a $450,000 project. And I'm gonna have to pay that all up front and then get reimbursed from all the different entities that's into that. Scott knows exactly.
So I've got to tell you, Tammy, back when my grandpa was just, there was a spring down off there. They water cheap when they rain down there. And you don't even know.
Oh, I know.
I mean, you've heard.
There's still a cement tank there. I thought it was gonna be the easiest project I ever did in my life, because it was on Sitla land. Come to find out, when BLM came in and did their blanket water rights, they filed on that spring for it to never be developed again. And that screwed me up for 3 years.
Can I ask why they would have done that? Like, what was the point?
BLM's BLM. Okay, they were getting away with some
No,
stuff.
that's fair.
Back in the 70s.
Just locking it all down for fun.
But I guess to Stephanie's point, the marketing side, I think there's a group of 20 of us here and we understand this. We're all for this, but if we had the whole state of Utah behind us saying, hey, this is what we need to focus on, this is what we need to work on, it's a little more powerful than just us 20. So I think you're right. We do need to focus on some marketing and figure out how to get the public.
I believe some even billboards with before and after pictures.
These pictures.
Huge.
Yes.
Just to let them, maybe not then and now, but maybe all of them.
Yeah.
But people don't seem to grasp that that's where the water is being wasted.
Yeah.
And when I say marketing, I'm talking about a viable, productive project that can be marketed. Like the marketing is just incidental to the project itself and built into a project that would have its own viable results. Do you see what I'm saying? But make that, be a mouthpiece for who we are and what we need to do in the area. Does that make sense?
Right.
Not exclusively marketing, just incidentally marketing.
Right. Yeah. Go ahead.
I think if we could get a couple of you, Tammy and Jake, a couple of you have mentioned that there's some data out there on like how much per tree takes. Like I heard here a while ago, this was brought up in a meeting I was in up north in a water meeting, and about 2 years ago, something about an 8-inch caliber cottonwood tree, and I was just amazed at the amount of water put into it. So I think if we could take what's been put together here and presented today and add to it 2 things. One is if we can get firm data, if there is, of how much each of these different species, the pines, the ponderosas, whatever, juniper, so forth, of how much they take per tree or per caliper, whatever. And then see if we could try to prioritize our watershed area of different projects. I think if we could do those 2 things, I think that it would be ready to try to take it to our legislators and try to see if they can earmark some money to whether to contribute to this organization or to something else so that we can start focusing on that.
Okay.
That's
great.
I'm just looking at, this is great information but what do we do with it to try to move it along? Because we can go in and do all kinds of stuff. A lot of us wear a lot of different hats here in the room, dealing with water. There's a lot of stuff we can do to cut back and conserve and all this kind of stuff. But when we're talking about like 1 acre foot per acre of thousands and thousands of acres, I mean, I think you can sort your way out at the input side.
We-
can very well do a lot.
We can move the needle on the input side, for sure.
Sure.
So just, I'm doing way too much.
No, you're good.
But the legislators put at least 2 million in GIP every year. And that's one of the leverage tools. That's one of the funding leverage tools. They put a ton of money into the WRI project. I'm not sure what the budget was this last year in that specifically, but they're already, like, the legislators understand it. The part that I'm hoping that doesn't suck it all up is the Great Salt Lake. Cause
Yeah.
they are really, like, that's all they're focusing on right now. And we just lost really good legislators in leadership and in the appropriations. We lost, Don Ipson, we just lost Evan Vickers. You know, we have one representative in all of rural Utah that's in any kind of, leadership position now.
Who's that? So you got voted down leadership, you're saying?
Yep. Voted out.
Adam lost by a vote. One.
That's
too bad.
Well, I've been telling them all face to face, they gotta quit putting their blinders on from Nephi to the top of the Black Ridge, but we're here and they need to start paying attention to us, so.
And I think we can show them results if they'll spend some, and there's a lot of good legislators, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of good ones. But they're fighting the same battle we are, the population is on that side and the votes are on that side, so.
Yeah.
Makes it tough. All right, we'll move on to, the next agenda item, will be quick. What do you guys think? So we have fulfilled our requirements and had our 4 meetings this year, so give yourselves a hand. There you go. What do you want to do for meetings next year? As of right now, we're still required to have 4 next year. January and February are terrible for us. If we try to do March, June is terrible. Anything after February and March are terrible, but we'll figure it out.
It's not all about you.
I know. You sound like my wife. What do you guys want to try to do? You want to try to do?
Really good. That's right.
Early February,
That's during legislature.
but we can,
Well, legislature starts the 21st of January and goes through
45 days.
the 7th of
My
March.
other quarterly boards I'm on, we
okay,
always hit the first week of January, the second week, I get this to get leapfrogged through all the crap with everybody's schedules.
I don't think it's a bad idea to meet during the legislature though.
But then we can spread it out. Or 3 months.
and we could hit a Monday during legislature.
Yeah, well, I just think that, you know, we have a possibility, depending on what the bills come forward, we have a possibility to act during the legislature. And I think it would be smart if we meet at the head of it to kind of, or, you know, a few weeks in to kind of get a feel for if there's anything we can jump on.
In this meeting, we can kind of talk about what we would then, I think. I don't know. The other thing of our meetings is, my idea bucket is pretty small. So I don't know what else to talk about next year, so.
I got one. Nick could give a presentation on the WRI program,
Yeah.
If you want to write that one down.
because January 10th is when WRI proposals are due.
Oh,
And then we go into ranking 2 or 3 weeks following that. We usually have the ranking done about the middle or 3rd week of February. And that's when we send the list to the state office, like our region has ranked these. These are our top priority projects. Yes, you can give a presentation on the highest ranked projects or something.
Yeah, whatever you guys would like, if you want.
What would be a feasible date for you, you know, assuming you submit all that stuff, like?
Are you looking for a discussion about what projects were likely to be approved with WRI, or more a discussion about what WRI, more detail on what WRI?
How about both?
a little bit of both. A little bit of both.
I would do old projects, like, what the goal was, what the results were, like on old projects.
Successful
The
projects.
success.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the program, here's.
And that's how we get into it, because I'm not, you know, there's 4 of us in here that have done it, but, you know, to actually like the entire process. Obviously, we're not gonna have a project ready
Right.
before this,
Sure.
but, you know, might inspire
Some models, some models.
to do it. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, and I could do that.
Do you guys, should we try one like early January, that second week in January? You guys good with that?
I'll be here the second week of January.
What about third?
The third week, I'd be fine, like the
I'm-
week of the 13th.
Yeah.
Scott?
Brandon, Matt Goebel's got a good presentation. We could even view it. It's kind of geared towards why grazing is important.
Okay.
It goes clear through the bare ground and all of that stuff. Good.
Okay.
He's got it recorded, so. So if we didn't even, if we wanted to piggyback it on another meeting, we could watch it.
How long did that,
About 45 minutes.
Oh, okay.
so it might be its own meeting.
It's okay. We could do that though. We could do one.
Well, it's just interesting to watch. He's got data that shows how it rains right down the line of where grass versus bare ground. He calls it brown ground, but cedar trees are definitely brown ground.
Yes.
Underneath brown, and the dark green is very, you know, so.
Yeah.
It was a good.
Okay. Paul, any ideas we can talk about in some of these meetings?
No, sorry, I was just thinking of stealing your ideas for the other watershed that I sit on. No,
I don't have many ideas, so you can steal whatever you need to.
I know that the DNR is still pushing to get out into forest too, so that might be something that you consider as well as go see that, or maybe even in conjunction with some of these that you're talking about, go and visually see all of these different projects, and you know, maybe you can split up and do both.
Yeah,
Usually.
that's not a bad idea. A follow-up after Nick presents one of the approved projects.
Yeah.
Something near here to go and, you know, physically check it out, go see it.
We could hook up with somebody like WRI always does tours, or some other group that's already doing it.
Okay.
Yeah, it probably makes sense to get everybody here on there's a big email list with WRI. And every summer there's a tour looking at these kind of watershed scale projects.
I can get you the list of everyone, their emails, so you can maybe
Add us to that.
add us to that.
And then I don't think, oh, go ahead, Jake.
So in discussion with this WRI program, there's 4 vacancies for at-large positions to be a ranker for the WRI committee.
Oh. Now you're politicking for your board. Go ahead.
No, there's 5 at-large organizations, 5 seats, and one of them is filled with a member from Southern Utah Wilderness Alliance. So there's 4 other seats open. And if someone from this little watershed council would be interested in being on that ranking committee where you have a voice in ranking these projects, I would prefer having someone with that mindset than another Grand Canyon Trust or Western Watersheds.
Yeah, that's.
It's an invite to join the ranking committee. If someone here would want.
Surely WR would put another one on there.
They damn well better not.
They have to meet the eligibility and they ask to be on the board and you can't, or the ranking committee, and once they make the eligibility requirements, they.
Jake, is this something where you voluntarily have to go in and sign up for it?
You have to attend half of the meetings, which
But I mean, the initial.
How do you apply to be on the ranking committee?
you have to attend the spring meeting, summer tour, or summer tour, fall meeting. And then the next spring,
You can apply.
you'd say, hey, I'd like to put my hat in. You'd have someone nominate
Isn't Tyler Thompson still in charge of that?
you.
Yeah,
So,
so I think-
you what?
So David Dodd's one too, isn't he? An at-large.
Okay, so the other day in our charter, they said there's 4 seats left.
There's
David
4
Dobbs
seats.
was county, he was county.
But I thought they were anyway, but there is a limit of 2 per similar, so So Sue has one, and there could be someone else from a similar type of organization, but it's limited to 2.
Lindsay Martindale's on there.
Yeah, so at
She's
that point, they
Wildlife
have to go
Guardians.
2, and they couldn't have any more. But yeah, basically,
Was that too? So she's Wildlife Guardians and then.
And Sue and Lindsay has left, so they're looking to put another
Where's their meetings at?
here in Cedar, at the festival.
Oh, they're right here in town.
and then one is a
Summer
summer
tour.
tour where you got tour project.
But you have to actually have attended something to apply.
So
They take you out and show you big deer, Tyler. It's great fun. I mean, you know what? I'll put Tyler's name in it.
There's potential for someone here with this little organization to be on the ranking committee, which would be
That's a good idea. Thank you for bringing that up.
beneficial.
Here's a question, can we just simply attend without necessarily being part of the committee? I mean, these things are, this sounds very interesting, but I don't know that I know enough to actually,
Projects.
yeah, to be valuable, but I would love to go to these. So
Could
do I
Stephanie-
just contact you?
Could you get the information for the meetings and email them out?
I'm the secretary, I'd be happy to, Jake's gonna.
That way
yeah.
we would all know about it. We would have to wait August, April, or.
My only thought on it is, if it's important to this organization, the organization probably ought to note down what we're talking about it today. So it's not, hey, this person might go and that person might go, and then none of you end up going. It's probably best to nail it down. Yeah,
Right now, down at the next meeting, you're gonna have.
Let's go to the next one and that nominate somebody and let them know, hey, you're supposed to go to these
Yeah.
meetings.
Why not? Is your arm still
I'm
hurt?
on a lot of stuff.
Oh, really? Spencer, you wanna do it? Somebody,
I'd be willing to do it.
somebody
if
needs
no one
to
else
commit
wants.
to it. I'll attend, but you need somebody who has deeper roots and higher branches than me.
Well, one of these projects might be the key to
That's what,
your water supply.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I'm
The
saying in
next
terms of
meeting's
big
in.
picture, all this stuff is going
In
to
January, did you
refine
say?
a project.
The proposals are due on January, so everyone.
But don't they have a meeting coming up
Next
soon?
meeting's in February.
Oh, not till February.
in February. Okay.
So somebody could go to the
So
February.
Spencer says he will attend. Perfect, thank you.
Okay, Jay, when I email you to ask for a reminder, what do you want, like, give me the verbiage about what I'm asking you to do, because I want to be able to send this information out to everyone, so what am I reminding you of?
Get your together.
Yeah, well, no, Jake, forward us information for
WRI updates.
or WRI updates.
Yeah, she's good.
Watershed restoration.
And you know what I can do, what I'll do is I'll just get that information to him and then I'll send it out to everyone.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because what I'm seeing is that with what we're doing in our agenda for this coming year is getting as much information as possible to flesh out what's going to be a successful project, which is going to do something really productive and proactive for us, but it's also going to put us in a position to actually have relevance against the Great Salt Lake, which is what our big issue is. And Warren was really clear about that.
Yeah.
And I think we can make a solid case if we have enough people coming together in unison and get on the map and have a little bit of money and have a good project. And that's where I see this moving as we plan out agendas for the next year and put people on boards and, like, stay informed about it. At least that's what I see. Because we matter.
Okay, anything else?
Can we nail down a little bit of a calendar?
Let's try, should we do January and then April? Let's get those two.
They're done.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's think third week in January, because Tammy, we're gonna want you here.
Well, and I have got meetings in California, the 6th through the 10th, that,
Would the
Okay.
third week in January be
So that'd be
okay?
the
And I'm gonna be
13th.
yeah, I
north too, that week.
You wanna- whenever you
So-
want to.
Week of January the 13th.
Are Mondays good for everybody?
Mondays are.
Mondays? Let's
Okay.
go
January 13th.
13th to 2 o'clock.
I can't be here that day, but do you need the hour? I know it's nice to have a recording for the minutes.
No, it's more than nice. It's
Yeah.
The meeting's here, and reserve the space here, just keep it here for now.
I think that's
Could you
fine.
come on a Tuesday? Could you come the 14th?
Normally, yes, but it's the state watershed
That's
council
the state
meeting that.
watershed.
Well,
Yeah.
no, and we don't want to,
Conflict, yeah.
yeah, we don't want to do that. Well, no.
I'm sorry.
What
No,
about
no.
15?
Could do the 15th.
Do the 15th?
So I couldn't do the 15th.
You're important because you're the keynote
Yeah.
speaker. 17th, does it Friday work?
Yeah.
You got one meeting.
16th.
16th?
Thursday is okay?
16.
Even though it's,
Okay. We'll go with the 16th.
2. And then, I know we can't do it during Monday.
Yes, we can. We sheep guys, they all have burgers. They don't need.
And wives.
When is any time in April good?
Just wing it and I'll do my best. But if you block out for me, you'll block out most of the year, just like you.
Yes. It's not all
You're
about
gonna be
you.
doing a tour with it. I don't know if you will or won't.
That's.
You want to do May.
pick some dates and stick with it.
We can do May, we can do August, we can do November again.
Change it.
May,
Can we do,
August.
can we do that? May, August, November, and that'll give us our 4.
What day in May does everybody wanna, but I think we try to do a tour in May,
Yes.
of a watershed tour locally, somewhere close here, and
One of those projects,
yes,
Hopefully you still have 2 feet of snow on them.
no, that's a good point.
I'm praying
Keep
for it.
dreaming, yeah.
I'm praying for it.
So we could do the week of the 12th in May?
Yeah.
I can't Monday or Tuesday,
Should we try,
Thursday?
Thursday, 15th?
People that got your life.
Yeah.
Not good.
Do the soccer.
How big left catch that like that? Just take it 1 week at a time.
Okay, let's put,
Yeah, and then August, and then November,
Maybe in August.
but.
we'll pick those dates later.
But,
Towards the end of August, usually on between, that's my.
You said May
most
15th.
busy time of year.
May 15th.
Every time.
so we've got January 16th at 2, and then May 15th
Okay,
at 2. We gotta have you in your house.
I'll be here.
Absolutely.
on January, and then in May, we may do a tour and just
Mhm.
meet where we take off from.
Yeah. Something that's not in the mountains.
Yeah, there'd be some some bench area we could do. The opinion of juniper is kind of what we're interested in. Okay,
Scott's got a good one that just doesn't really do the watershed anywhere.
Well, yeah, he's got a church on that way.
he needs to do better.
Closer to his land.
Be close to the shed. Okay, if there's nothing else, we'll, take a motion to adjourn. All right, we're out of here.
Good to see you.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. I told the county attorney the other day, right?
Don't give me anything that I have to keep track of.